And hello again, and here we are back in my garage for another episode about my Z1000A1 project. At the moment, the bike, such as it is split up over various workshops around town. The engine's in a million parts being worked on in different places, and the frame is at Jeff's place being braced and welded and having a lot of work done on it. So I can't do much at the moment. However, I can still buy parts, and there's one particular part that's been the bane of my life for 2 years, even before I got this particular bike, because I wanted this part for my Kawasaki Z1000A1 project, which is sitting right here by the camera, but at the time I just couldn't find anything that worked with the bike, and that part was a cockpit fairing. So I originally bought a fairing that I really liked. It's from a BMW R90S. It was a replica fairing, quite expensive, but when I came to fit it on the bike, it just didn't look quite right. It was a bit too tall, a bit too big, might suit a big fat BMW, but it doesn't suit my 1170 project, so I didn't use it. I then moved on and I bought myself a ABS fairing, cheap one from eBay. Didn't like that one either, so that one got given away, and so I thought, well, I just can't find what I want. And even back then, I did feel that when the Kawasaki Z900RS Cafe Racer model came out in about 2018, I did like the fairing on that bike, but could I find a replica anywhere? No, nowhere. And when I checked out the prices from Mr. Kawasaki just for the fairing, it was daft money. It's like £700-800 just for a fairing, and that doesn't even include all the bracketry behind it to hold it in place. It was just over £1,000 for everything, so I thought, no, not doing that. Then time went by, COVID happened, and everything kind of slowed right down. So in the end, when I got the bike painted, which I'm very happy with, it went without any kind of cockpit fairing, and that's a shame, because I always wanted to have the classic twin clock instrumentation fitted to a Z1 on my bike, but because I had to use electronic speedo and tacho due to the way the bike's built, that was very difficult to do. So in the end, I went for a mono unit, which is a multifunction unit. It's got everything in it. So I figured if I fitted a cockpit fairing to the bike, you wouldn't sort of notice that, so it would all look fine. But I couldn't find a cockpit fairing I liked, so it went without that. I just live with it the way it is. Ideally, I would like to have fitted a fairing, but to be honest, I quite like it the way it is. So moving forward then to today, to the Z1000A1, I still want to fit that kind of cockpit fairing to that bike, because the bodywork is very similar to the 1170 here. So having looked and looked and looked, I eventually found what I was looking for on a Japanese website called WeBike, and that has some amazingly cool spares, parts, aftermarket, whatever, far more and far more expensive and better quality than you would tend to find in Europe or America. Good news is you can convert the website to English and then convert the costs from yen to UK pounds, and so you can work out what's going on. Sometimes you do have to pay import duty on that, but so be it. So I found what I was looking for. So when I found it, oh, amazing, right, okay, I'll buy that. And that package arrived this morning. It came all the way from Japan. I think according to the label, it came via Heathrow, so it's obviously been air freighted over, and the price wasn't too bad. I mean, by the time we did the conversions, it was about £220, something like that, although that doesn't include any bracketry or even a windshield. But the windshield is standard, so I can get one from the likes of Power Bronze, something like that. In fact, I've already ordered one that's not quite here yet. So I opened the box this morning, and I must say I was very, very impressed. Here we are. You gotta be careful, don't scratch it and damage it, but here it is. So let's look at this, shall we? And you might notice it's not just an ordinary everyday ABS or fiberglass cockpit fairing, copied from a a Z1000, sorry, a Z900RS. Oh no, this is carbon fibre, handmade carbon fibre, and it is rather nice. Look at that. So I've got a smoked windshield on the way from Power Bronze, and I've also bought myself some whale nuts, which is the way you attach a screen to this fairing. It's been drilled the way a standard Z900RS Cafe would be drilled, with standard RS mounts. So I don't have that, and I've not found anywhere selling something like that. Nothing on eBay. I've looked for the last 2 years, nothing there at all. There is one bracket right now which is from a standard Z900RS, and they want £99 for that. So I thought, oh no, I'm not paying that, particularly since it won't actually work with this, because I have checked the parts book, which you can find online, and it's quite a complicated bracket. It both holds the headlamp in place and also has extensions to hold this fairing in place at the same time. So just as I'm making a headlamp bracket, quite a complicated bracket for the Mark II, I'll do the same thing for this bike, because it works the same way. There are no clamps around the stanchions, but the yokes are drilled and tapped and have mounts on them to fit a headlamp via some kind of bracketry. So yeah, I'll have to work out how to do that at some point, but yeah, I am very, very happy with this. So now here we are, another day. We're back in Jeff's garden, outside his workshop here. I just fitted these tank rubbers to the frame for the first time. That's because when I checked the lock stops that we've been machining on this lower yoke with the tank in place the way it will be in the final build. We haven't done that yet, so just down here we have a brand new Z1000 tank, which is all the way from Japan. Hopefully we can fit it without too many problems using the correct rubbers. Let's have a look. Sat like that. Right, yeah, that seems to be okay. So it's sitting pretty much as it will be in the final build. So now we have the Z900RS lower yoke, which Jeff's already done some filing on, but it still needs a bit more work. Hang on, there goes an aircraft. Its way to America, no doubt. Actually, just underneath the flight path, I think, from Liverpool Airport. Anyway, here it goes. Yeah, so Jeff's already filed this a little bit, but it just right. He'll need to put it into the rotary table, put it on the miller, and just get it just right, because with this little raised part in the way, you can't refile it because this gets in the way. So he's got a little alloy plug here that is made to mimic the bearings being in place. The height's about right, so that's how much it'll move at the moment. Yeah, it's interesting because there used to be a little bar that came down, a little sort of steel bar, which a lock stops hit at the back. Yeah. That we've now removed, and now the lock stops are hitting just the frame basically. So we can't have that because it'll soon damage the powder coat. So we'll sort something out for that. I have had bikes in the past, and what we've done is we've screwed in a little stainless steel spacer, a little stainless steel washer, so it hits that rather than powder coat. We can do something like that. Yeah. So that's great.
So it's not critical, but it does.
No. So if we bring this down here, hopefully you can tell, Jeff's already filed
just to get an idea where we're going.
A little bit. If we put it on here with this little washer sort of spacer affair that Jeff's made up, just so we can try things out, emulate rather than fitting the bearings themselves. So now it hits the frame here, and you've got to be careful not to go too far, because then the thicker upside down forks might hit the tank, which we don't want. Also, it's of note that the offset from the centre of the stem to the centre of the forks is different on a modern bike than it would be on an old Kawasaki Z. So typically there's less offset on these forks than there would be on a standard set of old Z1000 forks. So that brings the forks back, which makes it even worse, because then it's getting closer to the tank. But even that much isn't too bad. I mean, I've got a Ducati with less movement than that, less lock stop than that. But looking at that, I think we have got, a fair bit left to play with. Is that tank? Yeah, and the tank's pretty much Which
that's it. That's in the right spot, and it looks nice. It's all right round there. Yeah.
Fine, yeah. So.
Well, we're going to have a bit more than that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. As you say, if we take off too much, we can always add a bit again.
If we do, we can always add a couple of little pads on there, yeah.
So do you want to keep this tank now for when you're messing with it, or do you want me to take this tank off? You're all right.
I'll be fine. I'll just put a little scribe mark on them.
Oh, okay.
You hold that. I'll get the scriber.
Get the scriber out, and then we'll be away. Yeah, so far so good. I know this frame looks pretty bashed up at the moment, but it's not too bad. We've also, I don't think you can tell, but if I just zoom out a bit, just a minute. Okay, and one more thing we've done in the last few days is Jeff has made and welded this brace to the lower part of the frame here. The well's still need a bit of cleaning up, but that's not really a problem. And we've agreed that the only other bracing the frame's going to get is some additional bracing under the tank here on the area behind the head. And I think that's it really, we can't really do much else. Right, so that's about it for the frame. I don't think we're going to brace the area around the swing arm pivot. We have in the past taken these pivot points out from 16mm to 20mm, so it fits a more modern spindle, but we're not going to do that with this particular bike. The engine's going to be fairly standard at 1075 watts, sorry, not 1075, 1030 or so.
It's more than enough, isn't it? That's standard one, yeah.
And with all the modern brakes, forks and so on, you are putting a bit more stress, or potentially putting a bit more stress on the frame than you would do with the original old narrow tyres and so on.
I don't know if a brace.
But, yeah, no.
No, that's...
But as they say, Jeff, the older I get, the faster I was, and I think I'm not going to be pushing this bike and getting on the racetrack. No. I don't do that anymore, so it'll just be used for cruising around and just tootling around. Old man on top, that's me.
And enjoying
a nice day, yeah. Right, so that's that. We are also now talking about the Mark II, but that's a different subject, so we'll have to put all this away now. Yeah. We'll move on to something else.
I think we're going to get some rain.
Well, we'll see. And now here we are, back in my garage, and it's a few days later. And today, it's been a good day, because today I've been to Camcoat on the far side of town and collected my engine cases, sump and cam cover, which have now been treated to a hard anodised or strongly anodised coating of silver. So I'm quite intrigued to see how it looks. Now, I'm not going to unwrap the cases because they're all currently carefully wrapped up in bubble wrap, and those cases won't be needed for quite a long time. But what we'll do is we'll just grab this here. This is the cam cover, and not only has it been coated silver, very hard wearing summit coating, they also kindly, as I asked them to, polished the cam ends, which is something I was going to do. Done a great job, look at that. So let's just reveal a bit more of this rather beautiful cam cover on camera. As I say, I don't want to unveil everything just yet because it's going to stay, protected for another few months before the engine build can begin. So I don't want to start faffing about with it, unwrapping it and having to wrap it up again, blah blah blah. But at least we can do something for this one here. Now, you can see here, look at that, isn't that nice? And I will, I think, take a photograph, a close-up photograph, so you can see how nice this looks. Now, compared to a raw aluminium finish, this is a bit darker. It's kind of like a silvery colour rather than a bright aluminium cover. And that is a bit of a concern to me because at the moment I've not yet had the cylinder head coated. It's just raw aluminium. It's been blasted. I think it's been blasted in the past before I got it, and that is a much kind of brighter colour than this. So if I bolt everything together, it might look a bit odd because the cylinder head's going to be just next to this cover here, and obviously it'll look slightly different. On first impression, looking at this, I think I'm going to have the expense of having the cylinder head also treated like this, otherwise it'll look quite odd. So that's a bit unfortunate because this wasn't cheap. To have the cam cover, the sump and the upper and lower cases treated like this was £325 plus 20% VAT, which comes in at £390 altogether. That said, that's comparable with having the cases powder coated, for example. So the time is equal to the cost is due to the fact that they had to very carefully mask off all the surfaces on the engine cases and so on. And that's also the case, of course, with the cylinder head. You've got to mask everything off very carefully, otherwise you risk damaging the internals of the engine. So I suspect, you know, that's going to be quite expensive. Now, when it comes to the there goes an airplane. When it comes to the barrels, they're currently black, and it needs to be recoated because it's all chipped, and I've had a repair done on 2 of the fins, so that needs to be coated as well. I may actually do that myself. I may just spray it with high temperature paint. I believe if you heat treat it in the oven about 170 degrees centigrade for half an hour, it does toughen up the finish an awful lot. So that's something I might do myself. So with the block being black, it doesn't really matter if the cylinder head isn't the same as the cases, because it's a separate sort of colour on the engine build. But I really must have the cylinder head the same colour and finish as the cam cover, otherwise it will look quite odd. So yeah, that's a decision to make in the next few days. As I say, I get the barrel back from being rebored at the end of this week. Oh, I've also got as well, over here somewhere, I've got my missing side panel. That was out of stock when I bought the other one, so I couldn't buy it, but now it's back in stock, so I bought it from Z Power. It's just arrived. I think that was about £55, something like that. So yeah, all good, all good. So now I'll wrap up, literally I'll wrap up this cam cover back in its bubble wrap and put it away nice and safe until the end of the week, when then we can start to as I say, loosely assemble the engine to see how it all looks with its new finish. I've decided, rather than wait for the block to come back from being rebored, I may as well get the cylinder head here out from where it was carefully stored away and see how the finish compares with my newly finished cam cover. And I must say, it's actually pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with that. It may well be that I don't need to have the expense and hassle of having this cylinder head refinished by cam coat in the same finish as the rest of the engine. However, right now I'm very, very annoyed. And that's because I've taken this cylinder head out from its packaging for the first time since I got it back from the local machine shop, where they cut the valves and seam their head. And I've discovered something that I'm not happy with whatsoever. So let me just take this cover off here. We'll move him over there. As you can see, this cylinder head, I bought it some time ago off eBay, and it took quite a long time to find it, because most of this cylinder heads you find have damage, have broken parts, broken fins, all kinds of problems. And this one was quite expensive because it didn't have all those problems. And what I've discovered is the machine shop have now caused me more problems, because if I spin this around, let's just move that out of the way, a bit one-handed, not sure you can see, but look at this here. Let me put that down. Look at what they've done to my cylinder head. I've got a broken fin here, a big break here on this fin, a top fin. The next one down is broken a hell of a lot. That one will be so difficult to fix, I don't even know if I can fix it. And the rest of them are okay. And I know what's happened. The idiots at this machine shop have clamped down the cylinder head when they were machining it on a miller or whatever, and they've clamped it down on these fins and snapped them off. And what's annoying is, they didn't tell me about the problem. They just packed it all away and gave it me back. And I just assumed, oh, it's fine. Brought it home, stored it away, and it's only now, several weeks later, that I can see the problem. Now, luckily for me, I know a man, Jeff the welder, who can fix these problems, and he can certainly fix some of them anyway. That lower brake here is no problem for him, and the top brake here is also no problem for him, but the problem is this central one here, this middle fin, is going to be very difficult to get right, because you can't access the brake because this is in the way. So what do we do? Well, I have to go and see him. In fact, I'm going to see him in about half an hour. It's currently 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll see what we can do with it. And in fact, I've spoken to Les, who recently has had dealings with the same machine shop, and guess what? He had the same problem. They broke some fins. So it's like, oh no. Now, this machine shop is apparently well regarded. They mainly work on car engines, things like classic Ferraris, Aston Martins, old Porsches, so I'm not quite sure what the problem is. What also it means is that if you can repair these broken fins, that repair will be visible. It will be a small thing, but it will be visible. So therefore, I've still got to go back to Camco and have this recoated to match the rest of the engine, because that will hide any sort of differences in the finish where the well's been done. Yeah, so overall, not happy at all. But these things happen, and yeah, lesson learned. Next time I go and get some work done at the machine shop, I'll bloody unwrap it on the counter and look at the work they've done before I take it home. Anyway, there you go. So we'll continue the video when I've come back from Jeff the Welders, and we'll see if hopefully it can make these repairs look good. And now here we are, it's a bit later in the morning, and I'm just back from seeing Jeff the Welder, where I took him my cylinder head with the broken fins. Now, we discussed the problem, and he thinks he can fix those fins no problem. There is one particular fin that's broken beneath or between two good fins, and he can't really get at that. He can't weld it when the fins are in the way. So sadly, what he's going to have to do is cut off the top fin cleanly, so then he can access the broken fin, repair that, weld it and so on, and then he's got to weld back on the top fin. So it's not ideal, but there you go. By chance, he also happens to know the boss of the machine shop that I've used, which has caused all these problems. So he said he would give this guy a bell, because he's a sort of mate of his, and just discuss it, and hopefully he'll organise the payment for all the work that's required to fix that problem. Once that's all done, of course, then the weld will be visible. Even though he sort of linishes it really well, it's going to have a slightly different texture to the surrounding fins. So I'm going to have that cylinder head coated anyway by cam coat, and that's fine. I was planning to do that anyway, and that way, you know, the cam cover, the cylinder head and the cases will all have the same finish. So that's fine. So hopefully all's well that ends well. And so when those fins have been repaired and I have the cylinder head coated the same as the rest of the engine, then hopefully you won't even know they were ever damaged. But that won't be for a few weeks, so we'll have to wait and see how things turn out in the next video.